Welcome to Catholic Answers Live, the program where you participate with your questions about apologetics and evangelization, including the most important theological, spiritual, moral, and social issues facing the world today. Call now with your question for today's guest. Toll free 1-888-31-TRUTH. That's 888-318-7884. Now, from San Diego, Catholic Answers Live.
Hello and welcome to our Great Big Friday show here on Catholic Answers Live. I am Cy Kellett, your host. Please try to avoid walking under any ladders, breaking any mirrors, seeing any black cats today, because it is, of course, Friday the 13th, and that means bad luck. Or does it? We are often told by opponents of religion that religion is basically a form of superstition, which is kind of what is celebrated on Friday the 13th, superstition, but this is not true. In fact, the Catholic Church is quite anti-superstitious, and long before there was modern science, the Church was leading people away from superstition, which brings us to our topic today, why Catholics aren't superstitious. If you have a question or a comment about faith and superstition, we would love to take your call, 888-318-7884. If you prefer the spelled version, 888-31-TRUTH. Our guest this hour is Dr. Stacy Trasancos. Dr. Trasancos earned her bachelor's degree in science from East Texas State University, a doctor in chemistry from Penn State University, and a master's degree in dogmatic theology from Holy Apostles College and Seminary. She's the author of Science Was Born of Christianity, the teaching of Father Stanley L. Jaki, and Particles of Faith, a Catholic guide to navigating science. She's also one of the featured speakers at our upcoming super big national conference on faith and science. Dr. Stacy Trasancos, thanks for being with us.
Hello, Cy. Thank you so much for having me back on the show. It's always so much fun.
Yeah, we don't do it often enough. And I'm sure that's because you're probably riding horses or writing books or something like that. Because I just actually found out today you have a new book coming out for us at Catholic Answers.
Yes, I do. We're just finishing it up. It's Catholic Answers, a 20 answers booklet on bioethics.
Oh, that'll be out this month, or do you don't know?
I'm not exactly sure when it will be out, but okay. It's soon. I'm done writing it. It's in the last phases of editing, and it's about ready for us to pull the trigger.
Ah, very good, very good. Well, we were talking about you recently. Chris Check was in here. Tim Staples was in here. We were talking about you because you're going to be at the conference, and I said that you were once a rodeo queen. But is that correct? Were you a rodeo queen or not?
I was not a rodeo queen. Oh. I did have a horse that ran the barrels, and I even rode that horse with a broken arm and won lots of trophies. But the horse had to be put down and turned into soap because he got into a fight and hurt his leg really bad.
Did you just say turned into soap?
That's what my daddy told me.
I had no idea. Man, run, horse, run.
I know.
So you rode barrels, huh? So, and now you've got a what is it, a Catholic horse camp or something coming up?
Yes, I was invited as a Catholic Answer speaker to do the speaking part at Rocking Z Ranch in Montana.
Uh-huh.
And they're gonna have mass every day, and they're gonna have riding horses and trail rides, taking it easy, enjoying being in nature. And then in the evenings, we're going to have discussions about theology, St. Thomas Aquinas, reason, science, and horsemanship. So it's really neat. It's cool. It's the first time something like that's been done.
I don't want you to take this personally, but how did they not call me for this? Like, I'm right here.
Because you don't have a black cowboy hat like I do.
I don't have any cowboy hat. But I've also never had a horse turned into glue or whatever you just said.
I have a very traumatic childhood when it comes to pets, so let's not talk about that.
Wait, you have how many kids? You have 7 kids?
I have 7 children. Yep.
And did they all ride as well?
No, my children don't ride. My daughters, 2 of them take horseback riding lessons, and they're both going with me to the Rocking Z Ranch. They invited me to bring 2 of my daughters. So it's going to be a really special week up there with them. With Father Sean Raftis too is going to be there to hold daily masses and to provide spiritual guidance and counsel during that week as well. So it's very special. I don't know if anything like this has ever been done before.
That's really cool.
It's called the Catholic Cowboy Experience.
The Catholic Cowboy Experience. I like it. Well, I'm glad they're keeping you busy because I know you'll be here with us in September, and we're looking forward to that. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment, but 888-31-TRUTH is the number, 888-318-7884. We're talking with Dr. Stacy Trasancos about why Catholics aren't superstitious. So what do you say to people when they say, well, look, basically, you're a religious person. That's the same as being a superstitious person.
Yes, and I get that all the time, especially after I converted and I was so excited to be Catholic. And I started studying dogmatic theology, and then I discovered that you could debate people on the internet. And like my children didn't get meals on time for about 3 years because I was debating people on the internet. But I heard that all the time from atheists, that we're just superstitious. And it used to make me so mad. I don't know, mad maybe is not the word, but it used to really ruffle me because it was anything but superstition. I mean, superstition means a religious belief or practice considered to be irrational based on ignorance or fear. And it was anything but that for me to become Catholic. I was a chemist before I was Catholic, but my progression was kind of like I came to terms with the fact that somebody had to create all of this stuff in chemistry that I love so much, all of the order and the rationality. Somebody had to create that. So I got to God, but then I said, wait a minute, if I really believe in God, then I really need to know the fullness of the truth. And so I came to Christianity because Christianity is the only religion that has the same worldview a scientist must have. We must look at the world as a created entity that's ordered and not just random and illogical. And so it has to be a fully logical, a fully ordered creation, and that's how Christianity views the world. But then I came to Catholicism. So I went God, religion, Christianity, Catholicism, because it's the fullness of the truth. And so that's exactly why I started studying dogmatic theology, because I wanted to know more about our faith. And dogmatic theology is just like deriving equations in physics or chemistry or mathematics. It's that logical through and through. Catholicism asks us to follow the logic all the way through. Like, don't partly follow the logic and say, there, I'm done, and be lazy about it. To be Catholic, as any apologist knows, you have to follow the logic from beginning to end, and you have to be unafraid to follow the logic from beginning to end. It's the same thing for a scientist. And it was completely rational for me to become Catholic. And so I used to explain that to atheists all the time. And I still do. I don't debate atheists as much online as I used to because I'm busy doing other things now.
Like feeding your children now?
Okay. Feeding my children. But it's a completely logical system. I mean, the holy, it through and through.
So, okay, so but I do think a lot of people look, as a matter of fact, even probably more than at, say, evangelical Protestantism or at Islam, they look at the Catholic Church and they think it's superstitious because it's so particular. We have so many things like holy water or rosaries, and do you know what I mean? That it from an exterior look, it's like, man, they got all kinds of little tricks they do. So how do you answer that?
Yeah, I answer that with Stevie Wonder's song about superstition. Like, I was looking at the lyrics to that today, but I answered the same way. When you believe in something you don't understand, then you will suffer. Superstition ain't the way.
Yeah.
But seriously, when people say that and make fun of Catholicism for having its mystical aspect, those people don't understand why. For everything that Catholics believe or do, there is a reason for it. So just because those people are the ones being superstitious, the people who don't understand Catholicism and wage judgment against it.
Dr. Trasankos, we have to take a quick break. If you'd like to discuss superstition and faith with Dr. Stacy Trasankos, 888-318-7884 is the number, 888-318-7884. And this show is worth it just to get to hear a Texas woman give a spoken word version of Stevie Wonder's Superstition. We'll be right back with more Catholic Answers Live right after this.
This is Bishop Chad Zielinski from the Diocese of Fairbanks of Northern Alaska, and you are listening to Catholic Answers Live.
Can you trust the basis of the Christian faith? The Christian faith is under constant attack today in numerous ways, but the attack that does the most damage is the one that asks a deceptively simple question. What if your faith is based on a myth? The skeptics come with arguments to cast doubt in numerous ways, often attacking the reliability of the New Testament and the Gospels. And the sad news is that most people don't know how to answer these charges. The good news is that there are answers to each and every one of them, good, solid answers. That's why Catholic Answers Studios has just released Jimmy Akin's new DVD, The Dawn of Christian History. With his characteristic wit and passion as a master storyteller, Jimmy takes you through an exciting detective story that reveals how history supports the Christian faith. Order your copy of The Dawn of Christian History today by calling 1-888-291-8000, visiting the shop at Catholic.com, or asking for it at a good Catholic bookstore near you.
God helps those who help themselves. Preach the gospel always. When necessary, use words. We all hear sayings like these, and we assume they come from the Bible, the saints, or famous Christian writers. Nobody can seem to place their origin, but by sheer repetition, they've acquired a halo of truth. In my new book, What the Saints Never Said, I look at over 40 of these well-known sayings and track them back to their original sources. You'll be surprised at what I found. Some are close to what was really said. Many were misattributed or twisted beyond their original meaning, and more than a few of these sayings were simply made up. I hope by setting the record straight, I can make you aware of the theological errors that can lead us away from the faith and offer you authentic quotes from Scripture, saints, and scholars that will draw you closer to our faith. Get your copy of What the Saints Never Said by calling 1-888-291-8000, by visiting the shop at Catholic.com, or by asking for it at a good Catholic bookstore near you.
Looking for an on-fire Catholic speaker for your event? Catholic Answers speakers will inform and inspire your audience to grow in their Catholic faith. For more information on booking a Catholic Answers speaker, visit CatholicAnswersSpeakers.com today.
Call now with your question, 888-318-7884. This is Catholic Answers Live.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. It's Friday the 13th. Hope you survive it. I actually have no concern about Friday the 13th. It doesn't concern me even in the slightest, because I'm Catholic. I'm not superstitious. And Dr. Stacy Trasankos, scientist and theologian. That sounds like a show right there. Dr. Stacy Trasankos, scientist and theologian, is our guest. Are you still with us, Dr. Trasankos?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah. You sound good.
Yep.
We got you're coming to our national conference. I'm going to go to the calls very soon, so if you're on the phone, hang on, because we're not going to neglect you. But I want to just mention this because we got Erica right here with us in studio. Hi, Erica.
Hi.
And Erica organizes the conference, and we have our Catholic Answers National Conference coming up September 27th through 30th at the Hyatt Regency La Jolla right here in sunny San Diego, and the Hyatt Regency in San Diego for only $149 a night if you come. And the reason we have Erica here is because Dr. Trasankos, who is now wearing a black cowboy hat for some reason, it's getting out of hand here today, is going to be one of the main speakers at the conference. Isn't that right, Erica?
Yes, she is. She's like the speaker that I am most excited about. Can I just say that?
What?
I just need to give her credit. I just needed to tell you a little bit of an anecdote real quick.
Okay.
So Christopher Check, our president, sent out this article called Catholics and Faith and Science. It was like a 7-page article. He sent it to all the conference speakers. Yeah. And Stacy was the only one to respond with a response to the article. It's a really well-written article. I really enjoyed it. And she sent this really long email, and it totally lit me on fire for this conference. I'm so excited to listen to her talk just based on this email. And so I'm just going to, she goes she talks about the Big Bang Theory, and she talks about evolution, and she talks about law, the difference between laws and theories in science, and she goes
yeah,
on
I
and on,
remember that.
and it just like totally captured me. And so one of her last paragraphs says, "So if Catholics pray the first line of the creed and mean it, that God created everything, then there shouldn't be a conflict in striving to find better explanations, theories, about what we observe, laws in creation. Science is the study of the handiwork of God." And I was just like, boom, there it is. And this one
So you're going to
email-
become Catholic, Erica?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, now she's already Catholic. What do you say to that, Dr. Trasankos? Another fan.
Yes, that is the line that is the favorite. I want that on my tombstone someday.
Yeah.
Science is the study of the handiwork of God, because that's like my whole life.
It was
And
so good.
I love that, and
I'm
it's
so
it's what the
excited.
church teaches. It's
I'm-
not me; it's what the church teaches, and it's great.
I'm so excited to listen to her talk.
Well, so what's the title of your talk, Stacy?
Science for everybody.
Oh, okay. All right. So are you going to actually do some science, or you're going to please,
wouldn't that be
please
cool?
no math?
In like 1 hour, I'm going to explain everything
Oh.
about science and faith. So everything will be all explained. So the rest of the conference, everybody could just kind of kick back and chill.
Well, I'm sorry you're lacking in confidence there in your abilities. Let me just share with people, early bird pricing is happening right now through July 2nd. That's a long time for early bird pricing, but get your tickets soon. Seats, well, it is true, seats are limited, right?
Yes, they are.
So if you register before July 2nd, you get the Jimmy Akin custom M&Ms. Yes, we're putting Jimmy Akin's face on M&Ms. Full conference tickets includes Dr. Stacy's talk, Father Terrence Ehrman. All of our apologists here will do a live show there, and Raymond Leo Cardinal Burke will give the keynote address. I mentioned that special room rate at $1.49, $149 a night.
That's a steal, San Diego Hotel.
Just go to
for $1.49.
CatholicAnswersConference.com. Come on out. We're going to have a lot of fun. CatholicAnswersConference.com. And Dr. Stacy Trasankos is going to explain everything to us in 1 hour.
1 hour. It's going to be great.
Yes, I'm kidding, but yes. I'm going to lay the groundwork for the rest. That's what my job is in that first talk, is to lay the groundwork, like just to give a framework so
Yeah.
that the other talks will fill out that framework.
Wonderful.
And I think it's a good plan for the conference.
And are you aware there'll be square dancing at the conference as well?
Yes,
Bring your
I'm
hat.
aware there.
We're going to wear that?
I'll bring my hat and my boots
And your horse.
Oh, and I
and my
thought,
horse.
and before
I'm
the
riding into town on my horse.
right, and before the program today, you and I were talking briefly, and I think you were teasing me, but you said you and Jimmy Akin are going to wear matching cowboy hats and sing the periodic table.
Yes, I heard on Facebook that Jimmy Akin has memorized the entire periodic table, including all the atomic numbers.
Yeah.
And for the almost 3 decades that I have loved chemistry, I have never achieved that. I have never committed that entire thing to memory. So I thought if he wanted to wear his white cowboy hat and sing off the whole periodic table, I could do backup and like fill in with quantum mechanics here and there between the atomic numbers, kind of fill in, explain why there are as many protons as there are in each element.
That sounds like it would either be delightful or horrifying. I can't decide.
I'm impressed.
Erica, where do
I'm
people go?
confused, but I'm impressed.
Say again where people can go to get early bird pricing for the conference.
Early bird pricing at CatholicAnswersConference.com. If you have any questions, it's all there.
Erica Olson from Sweden. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Dr. Trasankos, we're talking superstition and faith. You, being both a trained scientist and a trained theologian, I'm sure have come up against many questions of superstition. Among them, would you classify? I'm not exactly sure to put this, but would you classify astrology, especially when it's doing like these things are going to happen in your future, as superstitious, or would you classify it another way?
I would classify it mostly as superstition. In part of my work where I explore the history of science, I read a lot about how the early church fathers that was one of the things in particular that they refuted with clear words and in no unclear terms. They refuted astrology and said that, that we do not believe in a God. We do not believe that the universe is God. We don't look to the universe and see into the future. And they very clearly refuted that. However, I have to also say that today, it is true that there are like cycles of the moon and stuff that can affect physiologically the human body. But that's a long way away from saying that we should be reading our horoscopes and believing that they can predict what's going to happen to us. That is superstition, yeah. And we don't have any place for that in Catholicism.
Let's go to our first call. Kyle in Sioux City, Iowa, listening on Catholic radio there in Iowa. Kyle, your question for Dr. Stacy Trasancos.
Hi.
Hi, Kyle.
Oh.
Hello.
Hi. Okay, so I have a quick question. I am a Catholic high school Spanish teacher, and I start each class with prayer intentions. And every so often, I'll have a student pray for something like that we'll get a snow day tomorrow, or that our football team wins the game, or that they can do good on the test. And it sometimes appears to me that the question can err on the side of like superstitious, like if we pray for this, this will happen. And maybe I'm reading into it too much, but
you're breaking up there a little bit, Kyle. But what about that? Praying for things like snow days and whatnot at morning prayer, and the connection of that to superstition.
I would say that it's not superstitious at all. I mean, if it were me answering, I know how students kind of like try to stump the teacher and you have to answer things on the fly. I would tell a student that it's not superstitious, that God says that, what we're taught is that you can ask God for anything. That's a very childlike act to ask God for anything, to be willing to ask God for a snow day, to ask God for an A on a test. But it's also an opportunity to teach those children as well and say, look, you can pray to God for an A on a test, but you have to do your part too. God created you in his image and likeness with intellect and free will, and you're supposed to think and reason because God made you that way. So you have to do your part and study for the test. God would not be doing you any favors to just give you an A that you didn't earn on the test just because you ask him for it.
Kyle, are we still connected with you, Kyle, there? Nope. Okay. We lost Kyle a little bit. That's interesting that you said that it's a childlike act because it's good to be childlike in our relationship with God. That is not something that we avoid. It's okay to share with God whatever you need.
Yes, I think so. And I mean, it's, that pray without ceasing. If you're going to pray without ceasing, I find that some days when I'm just carrying on my daily work, like doing dishes or laundry or walking the dog, it is part of the conversation you just have. You're praying, you're developing your relationship with Christ. It's okay to ask for any number of things. I think it helps us as people to think things through when we just start admitting honestly what it is that we want. And if you pray to Christ and you say, I really want this, then go a step further and ask yourself, why do I really want it? What am I willing to do to get it? Is it moral? Is it directed towards God's will? Am I open to following God's will? What am I going to do if I don't get what I want? What might I learn from that? Right. So it becomes part of the conversation.
I noticed that there seems to be a distinction in the way you talk about it from the way we usually think about superstition, which is superstition seems connected to objects and actions that I think are going to have an effect. Like, oh, I'm superstitious about the walking under a ladder, and so I don't do that which actually is kind of basic common sense. Like, don't walk under a ladder. That's actually a good idea. Right. Don't do that. But prayer is more of the way that you're expressing that idea of praying without ceasing is a kind of sense of sharing your life with God and asking God for what you need from. The power then is not in the objects or the actions, it's in God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think of it like God's will. Like if everything is supposed to be directed towards God's will. God holds everything in existence, but he gives us free will. And so whether or not a bucket's going to fall on your head because you walk under a ladder, or whether or not a black cat runs across your way. I think the reason that we tend to think those things will affect our future is that we're insecure about something. We're maybe insecure about our own ability to affect our futures or guide our own lives.
Oh, so we have a lack of trust somewhere that things are going to be all right.
I think so. That's just my opinion. But I think that we have a lack of trust in our own ability to do what's right. Like for me, that was a very big thing about being Catholic. I learned to practice the virtue of prudence. I learned to think things through, make a decision, act, but also admit if I hadn't acted exactly the way I needed to, or if that wasn't God's will, to change my course of action and keep seeking God's will. So I'm constantly trying. But it was an enormous confidence builder for me, because I know, if I'm trying to do God's will, I'm doing the right thing, whatever it is, even if I'm trying to pick out which ketchup to buy in the grocery store.
Yeah.
If I'm trying to do God's will, I'm thinking about everything the right way. And then if I'm open to changing my course if I need to, I have the confidence that I will do that.
Yeah. The ketchup in the plastic bottle, I think, is God's will, not the glass. It never comes out of the glass bottle. We'll be right back with more of Dr. Stacy Trasancos, chemist and theologian, here with us to talk about the Catholic Church and superstition and why Catholics are not superstitious. Maybe you think we are. Maybe you have a question about it. Give us a call, 888-318-7884.
We're glad you're with us. Stick around for more Catholic Answers Live.
What's up, EWTN family? Save the date, Saturday, November 3rd, Jacksonville, Florida. Join me for the EWTN Family Celebration. I'll be there with all your favorite EWTN personalities and amazing people from all around the country. I'll see you there.
Don't miss the EWTN Family Celebration coming to Jacksonville, Florida, Saturday, November 3rd. Join us at the Prime Osborne Convention Center for this free event. For details, go to EWTN.com/family celebration.
Catholic Answers is doing it again. We're holding our 5th annual Apologetics Conference this September in beautiful San Diego, California, and we'd like to see you there.
We've had a wonderful time going home all enthused.
Every time we come here, it's just an incredible experience.
Normally, you'd have to root through a dozen different books to get half the stuff I've learned here.
These guys are so amazing. I always get so much, learn so much. I've already signed up for next year.
Join us this September 27th to the 30th for a lively and inspiring conference with an all-star lineup of speakers guaranteed to jumpstart your faith. All of your favorite Catholic Answers apologists and special keynote speaker Raymond Leo Cardinal Burke.
I enjoy the atmosphere and the friendliness of the people, and I'm having a great time.
I love it. I love it. I'm so glad I came here.
I've just learned so much. I've been a Catholic all my life. It's just been so wonderful.
I love it. I want to come back every year.
Would you like to become a Catholic Answers Live parish partner? We need you to help us spread the word at your local parish. We'll give you bumper stickers, window clings, flyers, everything you need to let your parish know about the best Catholic radio show on the air. We want you to partner with us. Email us at calpartners@catholic.com today and become a Catholic Answers parish partner. Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. I am Cy Kellett, your host. Our guest this hour is Dr. Stacy Trasancos, who will be one of the featured speakers at our upcoming conference, Faith and Science, Friends or Foes. That's September 27th through 30th, right here in San Diego. I want to let you know that our spring sale continues. Annual spring sale goes on actually, I don't have a date here, how long it goes on, but all books, CDs, DVDs, ebooks, tracks, MP3s, everything we got in the store is on sale. Use promo code SPRING18 at checkout to save 15% on your purchase. The only thing it's not valid on is like bulk discounts if people are buying a boxes or cartons of books and all that kind of thing. You visit shop.catholic.com, take a look at all the great deals. Put in the promo code SPRING18, and when you check out, 15% will come off of your bill. Again, Dr. Stacy Trasancos is our guest. Our number, 888-318-7884. Lots of calls, Dr. Trasenko. Shall we go there?
Sure.
All right. And I will again say, if you have any questions about faith and superstition, we haven't heard from anybody who maybe holds the view that faith and superstition are essentially the same thing. If you do, if you're perhaps an atheist or agnostic who believes that, we welcome that call as well, 888-318-7884. Let's go to Chen in Houston, Texas, listening on Guadalupe Radio. Chen, your question for Dr. Stacy Trasenkos.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you, Chen. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. My question's about the apparition of Holy Mother Mary in Medjugorje, Bosnia. I'm a Catholic, as with so many Catholics. I went to there years ago for my pilgrimage, and it has been 37 years, and continue going on for Holy Mother's apparition, sometimes daily. I'd be interested in what's most update from your view and the church view.
Oh, okay, Chen, that's a little off topic today, and I have no idea actually if Dr. Trasenkos is any kind of expert on Medjugorje, but I will tell you this, and if you have anything you want to add, Stacy, that's fine, but there's several things at Catholic.com. If you just go there and type in the word Medjugorje, right on the home page there, then you'll get a whole list of articles kind of explaining where the church is and all that. Dr. Trasenkos, I only say that because I don't know if it's actually in your wheelhouse, that question.
It's not in my wheelhouse, and I'll tell you why. It's because I wait for the magisterium to rule on things like that. Like, I don't see it as my place to declare one way or the other. So I think with the church.
Fair enough. And so, and if you, Chen, if you want to know what that means, thinking with the church, or, you know, in this case, I think the materials that you'll find at Catholic.com will be very helpful on that. Medjugorje, just type in the word there at Catholic.com and you'll come to it. Shannon in South Bend, Indiana. I wonder if she's anywhere near Notre Dame University. What? Oh, they're telling me in my ear that Sharon is not there. I apologize. I swear I am not doing this. 888-318-7884 is our number. 888-318-7884. One thing I wanted to tell you while we wait for that call, Dr. Trasenkos, one time I got to do a long interview with a missionary bishop from Africa who would go out into the countryside and he was like a walking missionary, you know, like an old-fashioned missionary. Go out there and the people there had very many superstitions about ancestors and about demons and spirits and all this kind of thing. And he said that in his experience, well, two things. One, women really liked Christianity because it preached that men and women were equal. And two, he said, it was very hard for people to give up the superstitions, the idea that I have to touch this statue every morning or I have to do this or that, because it was all based in fear. But he said when they were able to accept the gospel, they felt a great relief from superstition, which to me has always spoken about the power of the gospel that it's not superstitious at all. It's not saying, you know, touch this, go there, make sure you do all this. It's saying simply God loves you.
Yes, and I mean, we do have lots of things that we're supposed to do, right? Like with kneeling and doing the things that we do, all the things that we do during Mass and saying our prayers. We do have things that we were supposed to do, but it's a different attitude the way we do them. Like we're offered to do them to grow closer to Christ, to grow in our faith. They're to help us. It's not that we are supposed to do those things out of fear or that something awful is going to happen to us if we don't do them. It's that better things are going to happen to us if we do them, because we're opening ourselves more to living the life of faith.
I think we do have Shannon in South Bend. Now I'm a little confused, but I'm going to risk it. I'm just going to I'm going to just take a shot. Are you there in South Bend, Indiana?
Yes, I'm here.
Are you Shannon?
I'm definitely here. Yes, I am.
Okay, yeah. Shannon, I'm sorry. I don't know what all that other stuff was about, but your question for Dr. Trasenkos.
Yes. Well, my question is somewhere crossing between superstition and the supernatural, in the point of fact that is when if you have watched TV or movies, and they're always talking about like demon possession and like exorcisms, and you always see like when you're on TV that it's like it's always Catholic priests and it's always nuns, and it doesn't seem to have any. It doesn't seem like Baptists or Protestants or anything have any problems with that. It just seems like it's always a Catholic thing. And it just seems to me that demon possession crosses lines between like Satanists and people who practice Wicca. And it's always seemed kind of strange to me. Why does it always seem like it's always about Catholics and demon possessions, where you never hear about a, Seventh-day Adventist or anything happen like this?
The reason you hear about it related to Catholicism is because we think about it. Like I was saying, there's an answer for everything related to our faith, and there is rich doctrine related to angels and spirits without bodies. St. Thomas Aquinas is my favorite. He has a whole treatise on the angels. There's actually, a discipline called angelology. And so you hear about it with Catholics because we talk about it. We accept that there's more to reality than just the physical world. We accept that there's also the supernatural world. There's also the spiritual world, because we ourselves are body and soul. And we understand the power that angels have, or we try to understand. We acknowledge that angels, since they are intellects without bodies, they're still persons by the definition that we use. But angels know much more than humans know. Angels and demons particularly can tempt us. Demons are fighting right now, trying to tempt all of us. There are demons that try to tempt us to do bad things, to turn us away from God. There are demons at work in the world all the time. There are also our guardian angels and all the other hierarchy of angels that are also fighting the spiritual warfare on our behalf. So we're in touch with all of that. Like, that's part of following the logic all the way through. There have to be angels because it says in the Bible there are angels, and it makes philosophical sense to say there are spirits without bodies. And so the reason people attribute that to Catholics is because we talk about it.
How does that strike you, Shannon?
That makes a lot more sense. I think it's more maybe on the non-Catholic end of it. It's more avoidance because there's not a lot of understanding about it. So, but thank you very much. That really did answer my question. And honestly, I am converting to Catholicism right now. And what scared me the most, without taking too much time, is the fact that it seems like, okay, well, now I'm opening myself up to the Catholic faith. And being a Protestant all those years, I never really felt controlled by any demons or spirits and everything. But if I open myself up to Catholicism, that I just open a door into something that would be very scary, of course.
If I may say, I don't know how Dr. Trasancos wants to respond to you, but the truth is the devil is nothing compared to God. Nothing. I mean, insignificant, not even a fly speck compared to the power God has. And the fullness of God's power is poured out on us to save us and to nourish us in the Eucharist and the other sacraments. So the goods so far outweigh the bads. There's no place safer to be, I think, than in the heart of the Catholic Church. Dr. Trasancos, did you want to say anything?
Yes, prayer is your shield. Okay, so you're going to become aware that there are demons out there that will tempt you, but your prayer is your shield, because if you pray, it's like a shield of grace surrounding you, and God will protect you. The angels will protect you. I tell my children this because when we pray the Our Father, and we pray to be protected from evil, we're praying just for that. We're praying like a shield to be protected, and you can have confidence that if you continue to pray for it, you will be protected. So you're going to be a whole lot more alive is what it means. You're going to be aware of so many more things.
Okay, Shannon?
Wonderful. Thank you very much, so very much. I appreciate you putting my mind at ease about that. I'm going to continue my journey, and I was absolutely, full-heartedly and through God, of course.
Oh, well, thank God, brother. Call anytime. Thank you very, very much for that call. I think we better take a quick break. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back with more calls for Dr. Stacy Trasancos on why being Catholic is not superstitious, why the Catholic faith is not superstitious with Dr. Stacy Trasancos. 888-318-7884, the number. We'll be right back with more of that after this on Catholic Answers Live.
Bringing you the truth. Catholic Answers Live.
Pope Francis said, "The key that opens the door to faith is prayer." Join St. Paul Street Evangelization by running a prayer station in the public square. You don't need to be a professional apologist or theologian. Just listen to the needs of the people you encounter. Offer encouragement, take prayer requests, and pray with people. Find out more and get involved today at streetevangelization.com. That's streetevangelization.com.
Are you a coffee drinker? If so, you can now enjoy a coffee roasted to perfection by the Carmelite monks of Wyoming. Delicious Mystic Monk coffee is roasted and prepared by monks in a hidden cloistered monastery and is available in over 25 varieties. All Mystic Monk coffees are works of perfection and labors of love. For more information on how to purchase Mystic Monk coffee, visit mysticmonkcoffee.com. That's mysticmonkcoffee.com.
Hello, my friends. This is Christopher Check, president of Catholic Answers. I'm sure you have heard that it's still okay these days to hold to the quaint superstitions of Catholicism as long as you leave them in church, because when it comes to reality, religion is just foolishness that withers in the fierce light of science. Problem is, this narrative is false. It is in the Christian West that scientific discovery has most flourished. Still, too many of us find ourselves flat-footed when confronted with bugbears like Adam and Eve versus evolution, creation versus Big Bang, and Galileo versus the Inquisition. What can you do? Come to Catholic Answers 5th National Conference, Faith and Science. Guest speakers Father Terry Ehrman and Dr. Stacy Trasancos will join the whole Catholic Answers team to explain how faith and science are actually in harmony. September 27 to 30, right here in San Diego. And we are thrilled to announce a special keynote address by Raymond Leo Cardinal Burke honoring the 50th anniversary of Humanae Vitae. For all the details, visit CatholicAnswersConference.com.
Call now with your question. 888-318-7884. This is Catholic Answers Live.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. We're discussing superstitions because it is Friday the 13th, and we have theologian and scientist Dr. Stacy Trasancos with us to talk about superstition. Why Catholics aren't superstitious is our topic. But we were talking. You and I were just chatting at the break, Stacy, and we should point out, I suppose, that it is possible to be a superstitious Catholic, to be superstitious about all the Catholic paraphernalia.
Yes, I think it can be superstitious. You can be superstitious and be Catholic. I mean, it's kind of hard for me to get my head around because I don't think that way myself. But I think you can be, and I guess with everything, you need to push it to the end. Like, why are you being superstitious? I mean, even our children ask us today. They were afraid all week that something bad was going to happen today. Even our Catholic children, they were worried that there was going to be something bad happening today, and my husband and I had to calm their fears. I think it's just human nature to tend towards being superstitious because we know that there is something transcendental, and sometimes we feel sort of like we don't have free will, or like there is something bad looming out there, or that we have to do certain things so that certain other things will happen.
Do you have any sense of this, that maybe as we become more secularized and in some ways kind of rationalistic in our society, we still have religious urges in us, though? Those don't go away just because we say we're hyper-rationalists and modern and all that stuff. So maybe that gets expressed through a kind of superstitious kind of living, like the universe has a plan for me or something.
Yeah, I think so. I agree with what you're saying. It's hard for me to think that way But I guess it's what they mean by the God hole in your heart. Like you're searching for God because even people who don't believe in God are still created by God and loved by God, and they're made to search for him. And so I know in my own life, when I was searching for God, I was searching in science because I was searching for some bigger truth than myself. And I think it is a superstition of sorts when atheists put all their faith in science to have all the answers. I think that is superstition. Even though they would balk at such a thing, but it's exactly what it is. They're believing something they don't fully understand.
Right. Let's go to Greg in Omaha, Nebraska, listening on Spirit Catholic Radio. Greg, thanks for waiting. You're on with Dr. Stacy Trasenkos.
Thank you for taking my call. What occurred to me was, and I've always had kind of a difficulty with this, in sometimes, whether it be indulgences or something else, that, if you say certain prayers and if you do this in certain order and then you do certain things, then this outcome is going to happen. Like, you'll get blessed in some way or something will happen. And I've always kind of thought that in and of itself is kind of superstitious. And I was wondering what your thought was.
My family has practiced some things like that, and so you're saying that if we believe in indulgences or some kind of remission of punishment due to sin, that's being superstitious. I would rather say that it's a radical act of faith, because we really won't know on this side of heaven what is going to happen because we do what we're supposed to do for these indulgences. And just to give you an example, we read that card where if you pray 3 Our Fathers, 3 Glory Bees, and 3 Hail Marys every night for 3 years, that your family will be taken to heaven to the 4th generation. I wasn't exactly sure what that meant, but I figured it like this: like, if this is something I can do to show God that I'm serious, that I'm all in, that I am radically going to live my life of faith, if it's something I can do to show God, hey, I'm never going to be able to merit this totally myself, but I'm going to do everything I can to live a life of faith and to show that I have trust in you. Then we did. I kept dates on it. Like, if we ever even missed a single day with the kids, we would go sit back down and pray. And it wasn't really superstition. It was just my greatest effort to show faith. And I think if you're doing it for that reason, that's very different from doing it just because you're afraid or you're being irrational. I think it is a very rational and radical act of faith to complete an indulgence.
Greg, what do you think?
Yeah, thanks for that answer. That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, that's what struck me about that, Stacy, is that the acting out of fear and acting out of love or fidelity.
Yeah.
That if I mean, I suppose even with very beautiful things like, say, holy water or something, if I'm afraid of going into the church without blessing myself with the holy water, then I've gone to a different level. I'm kind of superstitious about it. But if it's an act of love and accepting the blessings that God gives in the way that he gives them, it's a totally different thing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I guess you could say that about a lot of things, about accepting the gift of children, about accepting the gift of each day. If you see it all not out of fear, but accepting it as a gift and trying to get as much out of it as you can. Yeah, it's two different ways. It seems like it's a subtlety, but it's everything.
Frank in Long Island, New York, you are on with Dr. Stacy Trasenkos. Your question, please.
Hi, Cy. Hi, Doctor.
Hi, Frank.
Mine
Hello.
is more of an historical question. Father Stanley Jackie, as I think I heard that you have something to do with him in the credits. He believed that the Catholic religion in the Latin West was responsible for the spread of the scientific enterprise during 1200 to 1600. And he believed it was because of the religion created an environment which was conducive to science. And that's the reason why the other countries and cultures didn't have a scientific enterprise that took root, was because they didn't have the Catholic religion. They had a very cyclical, pantheistic type religion. Even the Greeks and the Romans had the great year where it was like 35,000 years, the Indians, the Aztecs, etc. I'm just wondering if you believe that that is a sort of a backwards proof that there really is something to Christianity and Catholicism in particular.
Yes, I absolutely believe that, and you did a wonderful job of summing up Father Yaki's thesis. I've studied it in depth, and I teach a class on it at Seton Hall University, and I tell everybody about it that I get a chance to, because there's so much to it. And you're exactly right. There is no other religion that has the worldview that Catholics have. There's no other religion that looks at the world with a beginning in time, created by God, with a logos that is fully divine, that the creation is created fully logical and fully ordered, which truly befits a divine logos, the Word, the second person of the Holy Trinity. And it fits with the Trinity, the Incarnation. We're the only religion that has that view, that incarnational Trinitarian view of the world. And it's radically different from any other religion. They all have some form of pantheism, some belief that the universe is eternally cycling, as opposed to a beginning in time. And it was that belief and that worldview that Father Yaki argues, and that I agree with, that nurtured the first breaths of modern science in the Christian West, several hundred years before most people think the scientific revolution occurred. The scientific revolution occurred because of Christianity.
Frank?
Great. Thank you both. God bless.
Frank, I got to tell you that was the happiest I've ever seen Dr. Trasancos to take a call. You hit you hit the nail right on the head of what she believes.
I had to speak fast. I'm driving, and I was going to hit a dead zone, so I had to speak fast.
Oh yeah, okay. Don't hit the dead zone. See, especially on Friday the 13th. That's double bad luck. Thanks very much, Frank. 888-31-TRUTH is the number here. Dr. Stacy Trasancos is our guest. She'll let you know next hour. Gloria Purvis is going to be here from Morning Glory at EWTN, the morning show on EWTN, and we're going to talk about her DVD set, Authentically Free at Last. What does it mean to be free? What does it mean to be authentically free? Is it what the culture tells us freedom is, or is it something else? And you know Gloria, she's just a lot of fun. So hang out for the next hour as well. Let's go to Coleman in Tahoma, California. Coleman, you are up with Dr. Stacy Trasancos. Your question, please.
Thank you very much. Yes, we're from Tahoma, which is at Lake Tahoe on the California side. And I'm Protestant, and I've been a missionary, gone to Asia and several countries, and I've ministered side by side with Catholic priests. Our son and daughter-in-law went to Gonzaga, which is a Jesuit college in Spokane.
You're almost in, Coleman. It just seems like you're one step away. Come on.
We have been Lutheran, and but what I wanted to ask, because the only thing that I don't agree with is the worship of Mary, and I come into some Catholics that worship Mary, and I don't understand that. And I wondered if that was part of the Catholic faith.
Dr. Trasancos?
No, we do not worship Mary. As a matter of using words like variables and algebra equations, there is very, very clear teaching not to use that word. We do not worship Mary. We revere Mary. We honor Mary. I mean, she's the mother of God. Of course, we honor her and revere her, and we ask her for help, and we consider her the queen of the universe, and the source, graces flow through her, and she's a wonderful mother to us all. She is our holy mother. But no Catholic teaching goes as far as to say worship. In fact, the Catholic teaching says do not worship her, but because that alone, that's reserved for God alone. But we do hold her in very, very, very high esteem. And there's all kinds of wonderful names for Mary that each of them, the litany of names gives us different ways to have a relationship with Mary and to call on Mary and to, see her as her mother and our helper throughout life. But we do not worship her. Very clearly do not.
So Coleman, you ready?
I appreciate that. And as I say, various dioceses that I've been around, like you'll see churches with Mary predominant on the steeple, however you want to say it, and then you get a different feel for it from from an outsider standpoint.
Yep, I'm sorry that I have to cut you off there because we have absolutely run out of time. But Coleman, you're right. We do honor Mary. We don't deny that at all. We honor her and often name churches after her. But as Dr. Chisenko says, we never worship her, at least if we're worshiping with the Catholic faith. Dr. Chisenko, thanks for another great hour.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Yeah, have fun riding horses in Montana, and we'll see you September 27th. Hopefully talk to you before that, but we'll see you at the conference September 27th here in San Diego.
Okay, thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Coming up next, Authentically Free at Last with Gloria Purvis right after this on Catholic Answers Live.
Yo, hi everybody, this is Dion, the Wanderer. Hey, you want to know when I keep it on Catholic Answers Live? I feel at home. God bless. Stay well.
Have you ever dialogued with someone who espouses relativism, which says there is no truth, or it might be true for you, but not for me? It's pretty frustrating. Deep down, we know these claims are false, but we often don't know why. Here's the reason. To say there is no truth is a contradiction. The assertion is tantamount to saying it's true that there is no truth. Plain absurdity. Now, the other position, there is no absolute truth, just truth relative to the individual set of beliefs, is problematic as well. The usage of the verb is implies an assertion about the objective order of things. It's the same thing as saying it's absolutely true that there is no absolute truth, which of course is a contradiction. No matter how the relativist slices the pie, he ends up with a contradiction, making relativism an unreasonable worldview. I'm Carlo Broussard with a ready reason for Catholic Answers, Catholic.com.
God helps those who help themselves. Preach the gospel always. When necessary, use words. We all hear sayings like these, and we assume they come from the Bible, the saints, or famous Christian writers. Nobody can seem to place their origin, but by sheer repetition, they've acquired a halo of truth. In my new book, What the Saints Never Said, I look at over 40 of these well-known sayings and track them back to their original sources. You'll be surprised at what I found. Some are close to what was really said. Many were misattributed or twisted beyond their original meaning, and more than a few of these sayings were simply made up. I hope by setting the record straight, I can make you aware of the theological errors that can lead us away from the faith and offer you authentic quotes from Scripture, saints, and scholars that will draw you closer to our faith. Get your copy of What the Saints Never Said by calling 1-888-291-8000, by visiting the shop at Catholic.com, or by asking for it at a good Catholic bookstore near you.
Do you enjoy tedious lectures full of facts you'll never use? We didn't think so. That's why we're launching the Council of Trent, Trent Horn's engaging new podcast. Every week, you'll get lively lessons in Catholic teaching, as well as a new conversation roadmap that will help you share your Catholic faith with anyone, anytime, anywhere. Visit TrentHornPodcast.com now to find out how you can subscribe to this exciting new podcast.
Are faith and science compatible? The world tells us no, but history shows otherwise. For it is in the Christian West that the pursuit of science has flourished. Our challenge is in reconciling the divide between faith and science in the popular imagination. Join us this September 27th to the 30th as we tackle the topic at Catholic Answers' 5th National Apologetics Conference, Faith and Science, a lively and inspiring conference designed to jumpstart your faith. We've got an all-star lineup of speakers guaranteed to make you think. Catholic scientist theologians, Stacy Trasankos and Father Terrence Ehrman, all of your favorite Catholic Answers apologists, and special keynote speaker Raymond Leo Cardinal Burke. This is where it all begins. Join us this September for a conference that is sure to leave you wanting more. Early bird pricing ends July 2nd. Seats are still available, but they're going fast. Visit CatholicAnswersConference.com or call 1-888-291-8000 today to register. That's CatholicAnswersConference.com.
Hi, this is Cy Kellett. It's easier than you may think to have a Catholic Answers speaker at your conference or parish event. We've got the speakers. Fired up and knowledgeable Catholic Answers speakers have their bags packed and are ready to come see you. Go to CatholicAnswersSpeakers.com to find out just how easy it is to have a Catholic Answers speaker at your next event. That's CatholicAnswersSpeakers.com. Carlo, get your feet off my suitcase.
Every question is important. Ask yours today on Catholic Answers Live.
Welcome to Catholic Answers Live, the program where you participate with your questions about apologetics and evangelization, including the most important theological, spiritual, moral, and social issues facing the world today. Call now with your question for today's guest. Toll free 1-888-31-TRUTH. That's 888-318-7884. Now, from San Diego, Catholic Answers Live.
Hello and welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. This hour we talk about being authentically free at last. What does real freedom mean? Is the modern idea that freedom means the right to do or be whatever we feel like doing or being? Is that correct? Or is there more to authentic freedom? You could probably guess which direction we're going to go on that. For example, can we really be free if we remain trapped by sin and death? If you would like to join the conversation, give us a call, 888-318-7884. This hour, we talk about being authentically free at last, and we would love your call, 888-318-7884. Our guest this hour is Gloria Purvis, co-host of Morning Glory, which airs at 7 a.m. Eastern Time on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. She's also one of the creators and hosts of Authentically Free at Last, a 13-part EWTN television series and DV set about the nature of true freedom. She's also super good at Twitter, where you can follow her at Gloria_Purvis. Gloria, thanks for being with us.
Hey, Cy, so glad to be back. Glad to be here.
Yeah, that I say 7 a.m. Eastern because that's 4 a.m. Pacific, and
that's like super early. Y'all are still sleeping, I think. But I do think they may time shift the show. There could be some stations that play it out at 7 a.m. y'all's time. I don't have the affiliate list in front of me, but hey, so people can still catch it on the podcast or go to the EWTN app and listen to the show on demand. So
yes, and please do that. Authentically Free at Last, the television series. I'm right, 13 episodes, right?
Yes, 13 half-hour episodes. Sure is. Mm-hmm.
And what was the central kind of thing you wanted to communicate to us?
I have to tell you, around that time, it just started to get on my nerves to hear people deny that there's such a thing as objective truth, and deny that there's such a thing, the way that they were twisting freedom to be whatever you want. It was just bothering me. And so I'd been praying about it, and Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers and Damon Owens are also in the series with me. And I just thought we need to be able to help people understand what freedom really is. What does it mean to do what is good and avoid evil? And the difference between the fact that there is something as objective truth, and that you can rely on the church to help you form your conscience and things like that. So I thought that was so necessary, given the kinds of things I saw happening back in, 2008 actually, is when I first thought about having the series, and we didn't film it until, I think, 2011. And then it came out in 2012, I think.
And so the free at last part, do you take that from Dr. Martin Luther King? Is that the idea?
I sure did. I was thinking about, when he was talking about free at last, thank God Almighty, I'm free at last. And I'm like, and what we need to understand is authentic freedom. And it cannot be freedom that's rooted in just what you desire. It's freedom rooted in something outside of you. And that something outside of you is God. So
I think it's to me it's fascinating that you use that quote from Dr. King, because many people, I think, are confused. They think that all the kind of liberation movements, including the sexual revolution, including the drug revolution and all that, are of the 60s are basically the same thing, and that they're all of equivalent value, but they're not.
Well, and speaking of Dr. King, I mean, if you look at how he talks about what's a just law and an unjust law, it has to be rooted in God's eternal law, right? And so any of those movements that deviate from that aren't about freedom. They're about license, ability to do whatever you want. And, I find it so interesting that people... I really call it the sexual rebellion instead of the revolution, because it's so contrary to what God planned for us. And when I hear people like, oh, you have to have control by doing these things to maim your body or to make your body not function as it was designed, I keep thinking, who would think that they could master music by throwing off any of the principles of music? You know what I mean? Like you want to play Chopin, but then you're like, I don't need to learn anything about the principles of music. And so you would say, but are you free then to really create music if you don't even understand the principles? Yet somehow we think that by throwing off just any of the basic rules of even accepting how our bodies work, somehow that makes us free. I'm like, no, it just makes us confused.
Right. The musician analogy is really powerful, because it's through discipline, it's through self-sacrifice that the musician achieves the freedom to be a musician.
Yes, absolutely. And you can't expect to walk up to a piano and then just start banging on it and think you're going to have a masterpiece when you know nothing about music. You haven't studied, you haven't practiced, but somehow you're like, I'm free. And I'm like, no, if you understood the principles of music, you'd be free then to express yourself, because you understand the principles, the language, if you will, of music.
The EWTN kind of blurb, I guess, for Authentically Free at Last, the DVD series says, authentic freedom means following God's plan for our lives and resisting the temptations of the secular culture. What does that mean?
Oh, gosh. I mean, let's just look at the secular culture right now. For goodness sakes, I'm like, how fool are we that we would actually say that a man is a woman or a woman is a man? And clearly you could look at the person and you're like, no, that's a man. And it's the secular culture would have us want to deny objective truth in favor of what makes us feel good. And it's all about emotion or do what feels good, rather than considering, well, what is true beauty and good, right? And even their definition of what is good is so devoid from what we would say what is good. Anything that's deviating from God's plan for us cannot be a good for us. For example, we saw the Women's March. Some of the Women's March organizers were lamenting that they call it sex work. The rest of us call it prostitution. Was somehow, I guess, not being supported by the new sex trafficking law, or something to that effect. I'm hoping I'm not misquoting. But the idea was that they were championing prostitution, which they'd like to rename sex work, as something that's a good. Well, you and I know that never, ever, ever is it a good for a human person to be treated as an object, a sexual object nonetheless, that's not a good. But they would say it's a good because in their mind, for a woman, let's just say, because that's typically who we're talking about here, that a woman is somehow free to choose that line of work, and somehow that in and of itself, being able to choose that and do that is empowering and good. And we would be like, nah, you're measuring it wrong.
Yeah, right. We need help to understand. Like, it's not just a matter of throw off all restrictions and then you're free. That actually turns out being a disaster for everyone.
Well, who would ever expect be okay with, like, okay, you're going to get on this train, and at some point it's going to not be on the track because the train needs to be free to be the train. You know what I mean?
Yes, right.
You would say, and we are going nowhere if we get on the train and it gets off the track, or somehow we're headed for disaster if the train no longer runs on the track. But somehow that whole thinking about freedom gets lost when we talk about our appetites and desires.
Right. So you do talk in the series about the formation of conscience and the need for the church, that the church is actually there to help us to form our conscience so that we can be free.
Absolutely, because, okay, so let's say this, the whole purpose, right, of having a conscience and having it properly formed is so that you can choose what is good, right?
Yes.
And if you align your conscience, or I rather like to say, if you deform your conscience, then are you ever really free to choose what is good, because you've so deformed yourself? The eye of the conscience really gets poked out by sin. And unless you can turn away from yourself, your sinfulness, your fallenness, and look towards something else, which points you to God, you're never going to, I think, have the eye to pick what is beautiful, true, and good. So we turn to the church and look at what she says. Christ established her, so we trust her. We look at what she says. And I like to say it's like the church is like the compass for us, and that she has a map of time. And as the map of time unfolds, you know, we look at the church and form our conscience to that compass of the church, which is going to lead us along the map in the right direction.
888-318-7884 is our number. Gloria Purvis is our guest, and we're talking about her DVD series, Authentically Free at Last, and the idea about being authentically free at last. How do we achieve that? What does the Catholic Church teach about true human freedom? If you'd like to talk about that, give us a call, 888-31-TRUTH. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back with more Gloria Purvis after this on Catholic Answers Live.
Hang on. Catholic Answers Live will return in a moment.
Do you love sharing the gospel and want to learn to be more effective? Join the St. Paul Street Evangelization online School of Evangelization. You will learn to build bridges of trust and make disciples by befriending strangers, proclaiming the gospel, inviting people to the church, and praying with others. We'll ask for a pledge of financial support, but if you are unable to give, we'll give you a membership at no cost. Find out more and get involved today at streetevangelization.com. That's streetevangelization.com.
Can you trust the basis of the Christian faith? The Christian faith is under constant attack today in numerous ways, but the attack that does the most damage is the one that asks a deceptively simple question. What if your faith is based on a myth? The skeptics come with arguments to cast doubt in numerous ways, often attacking the reliability of the New Testament and the Gospels. And the sad news is that most people don't know how to answer these charges. The good news is that there are answers to each and every one of them, good, solid answers. That's why Catholic Answers Studios has just released Jimmy Akin's new DVD, The Dawn of Christian History. With his characteristic wit and passion as a master storyteller, Jimmy takes you through an exciting detective story that reveals how history supports the Christian faith. Order your copy of The Dawn of Christian History today by calling 1-888-291-8000, visiting the shop at Catholic.com, or asking for it at a good Catholic bookstore near you.
Catholic Answers Live is brought to you in part by CatholicSingles.com, the website for Catholics who want to meet others who share their faith and values for faith, fellowship, and love. You can learn more at CatholicSingles.com. Catholic Answers Live thanks CatholicSingles.com for their generous support.
Homeschool Connections, an online provider of courses for your Catholic homeschool, is a sponsor of Catholic Answers Live. Homeschool Connections website is homeschoolconnections.com.
Call now with your question, 888-318-7884. This is Catholic Answers Live.
Welcome back to the Great Big Giant Friday show here on Catholic Answers Live. This hour we are talking about freedom. And the truth is, the truth we're getting at a bit by bit here is that the Catholic faith does set you free. That is, accepting what the Church teaches is the path to freedom. It's hard to accept for many people in the modern world. And if you're having trouble with that or would like some clarity on exactly what that means, give us a call, 888-318-7884, 888-318-7884. Gloria Purvis is our guest. Gloria is among the hosts of Morning Glory each day on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. She is also the chairperson of Black Catholics United for Life, which seeks to increase the size and strength of active Black Catholic participation in the pro-life movement. How's that going?
It's going great. You know,
Good.
I find when I try to go and give my talks around the country, I generally ask if I could have some time with Black Catholics in that diocese. and I go and we really just have a very raw, open discussion about pro-life issues. And I try to unfold where people have more questions, what the church teaches. And I often find that people say, I've never heard it explained to me that way. And they become so much more open because, unfortunately, the whole idea of being pro-life has been so politicized that I'm like, this is bigger than a political party. This is
Right.
about what we believe as Catholics, and that should drive us. It should not be more down or limited by a political party. And so when I, phrase it like that and start to get into these deeper discussions, people really appreciate it. I mean, I do get pushback in some cases, but I appreciate that as well, because I'm like, the more people push back, the more we can actually delve into what we believe and why.
I
So.
think you love the pushback, Gloria.
I do. I love when people shout at me. You have no idea.
But isn't that's an aspect of freedom that we did not get into, this idea that if the more we think of freedom as our self kind of actualization, the more likely we are to really be depriving others of their freedom, including their freedom to just live in this world.
And that is at the heart of what I find people who support abortion. They make it this either or. And this understanding of being female is like so nuts. Like they don't, to me, their whole understanding for what is female is totally patterned on maleness. Like they won't even accept that women can get pregnant and that is another separate life inside of her. They make it all about her bodily autonomy. And I'm like, only men don't have to consider or operate in a way to consider that there's another life growing inside of them. And it's almost like they want that kind of maleness to be the pattern for female freedom. And I'm like, you completely, deny what it is to be female. And in my opinion, denigrate the very essence of what it is to be female when you seek after maleness as a pattern for female perfection and freedom.
Do you think that some of this idea of flattening out sexuality so that basically we're just all one big mush of, we're just be what you want to be and all that kind of thing. So that maleness and femaleness do not stand as complementary to one another. They don't stand as distinct and beautiful states created by God. That actually is a powerfully enslaving ideology. That is the absolute opposite of freeing people.
Well, if you think about it, what it does is it just says follow your passion wherever it leads you, and you'll then be really more of a slave of your passion instead of a master of it. Self-mastery for us as Catholics is important, right? And the moment that we allow our passions to rule us, then reason goes out the window. And aren't we seeing that now? I mean, even when they use the phrase love is love is love, and then they have this commercial of all these people getting up there and almost trying to equate that male and female love is the same as sexual love between people of the same sex. I'm like, well, hold up now. That's not the same. That's not at all. It's not even, you want to ignore the complementarity. You want to ignore the difference in the body. And so sometimes we get wrapped up and let emotions become the source of the moral law. But the emotions are not the source of the moral law. And we want to equivocate things that are clearly different. But when we start to follow our passions and give up on reason, sometimes it's difficult for us to disentangle the tangled mess is put in front of us. You know what I mean?
Right. Yes, because it obviously feels like license feels like freedom in the moment. Like, oh, well, if you won't let me, take this drug or have this money or this sex or whatever, then you're getting in the way of my freedom. But actually what we're kind of being seduced into binding ourselves.
That is the perfect word. We are being seduced. To me, I feel like the serpent is right there in your ear whispering. Yeah. And you're like, oh, yeah, that sounds kind of good. And then for some reason, we're like, but somebody over here is trying to point out to me, hey, that's not really the best course. And I don't like that. So I'm going to say, I'm going to say, well, no, this is freedom. And who are you to tell me what I can and cannot do? You hear these kinds of things. And certainly people are free to choose certain things, but you can't say that is authentic freedom. That's what I was trying to get at.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, right. 888-31, choose the number. Kamel in Akron, Ohio. You are on with Gloria Purvis. Kamel, your question, please. Kamel?
Like when the idea of freedom comes up in conversations like these, I think a lot of times it gets talked about in a way that's like kind of, if you have an itch, scratch it Like, you know, if you feel a way or you have an impulse for something, then do it, and you can't be told to do, like, the contrary to that, or you're, you know, X, Y, or Z. You're just kind of unfair to the other person, not letting them live out their inhibitions. I guess my question is, do you think it's fair to frame the term freedom, the concept of doing what is contrary to, like, your intrinsic nature? So, like, basically, if we always just had an itch and scratched it, we're no better than an animal who's not exercising any kind of, like, free will or ability to discern or a judgment call. So I guess, like, if we were to, say, choose, like, contrary to our nature, that's actually a greater expression of freedom than moving into our very nature? Like, do you think that's a fair way of framing the question?
Well, the thing that the trouble I have with that is I think that's a difficult concept for people to, because they keep saying, well, why would freedom be me oriented towards something that's contrary to myself? Because we were made good, right? And then through the fall, well, we kind of got off the path. So I would say freedom is aligning us to our original nature pre-fall, if you think about it, because then we were in union with God. But I get what you're saying. I think one aspect of freedom is being able to choose what goes against your carnal nature when your nature is oriented away from God. Now, freedom is also the ability to go along with your nature when it is oriented toward God. So in other words, it would not be an act of freedom, in my opinion, to say, because I am sexually attracted to a man, myself speaking as a woman, I am free. I am more free to turn away from that attraction to a man. Well, that's not always the case because I'm married. I should have this attraction to my husband. I should not turn away from it. Does that make sense? So I think sometimes it's also, you have to consider in the context of what you're speaking about, because I could see how that could be troubling for some people because not everything that's natural to us is necessarily bad. You know what I mean?
Okay, so I guess maybe it would be more fair to say, I guess, through prudent, like, discernment of kind of your nature or your will, like, more or less. So I guess, like, circumstantially, it would kind of be like a case-by-case thing in that situation.
I would say this.
I
would say this. The freedom to do evil is not freedom. It is an abusive freedom. And then so the question becomes, how do we determine what is evil versus what is good? And then that's when you point people back to the natural law, part of the divine law that's implanted pretty much in every human heart, in the heart of every human person. And you can come to know God by reason alone. So I would say it would be turning people back to natural law and having them ponder it and consider it to be able to determine what is good versus what is evil. I hope that was a decent answer for you.
Kamel?
No, super helpful. I really appreciate it.
Thanks. Thanks very much, Kamel. The DVD set that we took the title of this hour from is called Authentically Free at Last. You can get that at the EWTN shop. Gloria, in that DVD series, you kind of, I think, hit a little bit of a landmine in that modern people, if you watch these, I don't know, nostalgic shows like the 60s, 70s, and 80s, with the advent of birth control is treated as a great liberating moment. But you say contraception is really bondage.
Oh gosh, yeah, it's terrible. It is bondage because why? It makes the sexual act just about getting yours, if you will. To me, it turns you more inward instead of outward toward the other. And it's also not having the person that you're with be fully themselves. I just find it absurd that you think that it's a total giving of self when you've completely cut off one aspect of yourself, that is your fertility, from the other within the sacrament of marriage. And I think once you unbridle that passion outside of the way in which God intended it, it's almost like putting a leash around your throat for you to be carried around wherever your passion leads you. Because then you say, hey, I can do this at any time, at any place, with any person. That's not freedom. That's just letting your passion enslave you. And also people would think you're weird for not acting on that. I mean, it becomes now that virginity is looked at as something that is peculiar and odd,
Yeah.
and something to be avoided, which I'm so saddened by that. But again, that's because it's like, well, follow your passions. You're more free and you're more empowered if you act on your sexual impulses. And I say, no, absolutely not. It's when you can master them that you are more free, because your passions aren't dictating when you act. It is your reason that's having you dictate. I say animals just act, right? Without thinking. We think. And to be able to act by thinking something through is freedom.
Yeah, and and again, it fascinates me that this idea, you use that analogy at the beginning of the musician, but if we think about discipline and self-mastery and hard work in things like, I don't know, like in athletics or in music or in science, or these is all lauded. But if you say, well, those are the things that I value in my sexuality, that I want to have self-control. And it's going to take me making sacrifices and being committed. People are like, come on, what are you, weird?
Yeah, are you a prude? Why aren't you sex positive? And I'm like, we're probably the most sex positive people you want to meet, in that we're positive about what it means, the beauty of it. I think the world thinks too little of the sexual act. They don't understand, in my opinion, or appreciate the very specialness of it, the holiness of it. I sometimes wonder if we remember how holy sex is as God intended it. It's supposed to be holy. But what people do with it now is they abuse it. And you know what you call an abuse of a holy thing is sacrilege. And I often, sometimes when I go out and give my talks, I ask people if the sex they have is sacrilegious. You know, are you abusing it? Are you engaging in sex the way God intended it? And this is when we start talking about contraception, and it really opens the door to have people really talk through it. And what I find at the root of this contraception is a lot of fear of being pregnant, a fear of being vulnerable to somebody else.
And maybe a fear of not being able to have a career or that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah, all that. Mm-hmm.
Gloria Purvis is our guest. We're talking freedom, true freedom, authentic freedom. Authentically free at last is our topic. If you'd like to talk about freedom, and especially the Catholic Church's understanding of what makes us authentically free, please give us a call. 888-318-7884. 888-31-TRUTH is that number. We'll be right back with more after this on Catholic Answers Live.
We're here for you. Give us a call today on Catholic Answers Live.
It might be said that anti-Catholic notions of the Church's history are the original fake news. With all the misinformation being spread, where does one look for the truth? In The Real Story of Catholic History, Professor Steve Weidenkopf gives you the facts on over 50 of the most common misconceptions about Catholic history and shows how to answer them simply and powerfully. Whether it's to answer claims about Catholicism's supposedly pagan origins, old myths about the Inquisition that never seem to go away, or more modern errors that anti-Catholics put forth, The Real Story of Catholic History is an essential resource for every Catholic's bookshelf. Order your copy of The Real Story of Catholic History today by calling 1-888-291-8000, visiting the shop at Catholic.com, or asking for it at a good Catholic bookstore near you.
As the legend goes, the Protestant Reformation began when Martin Luther nailed a list of his grievances with the Catholic Church to the door of All Saints Church in Wittenberg, Germany. But do you know the whole story? In Catholic Answers' brand new documentary, The Protestant Revolution, you will hear from top apologists Tim Staples, Jimmy Akin, Carla Broussard, Trent Horn, and Steve Weidenkopf as they expose the errors of Martin Luther and of the other so-called reformers. This DVD will give you a clearer understanding of our Protestant brothers and sisters, and you will be better equipped to engage them about what separates us and about what unites us. Order your copy of The Protestant Revolution today by calling 1-888-291-8000, visiting shop.catholic.com, or by asking for it at a good Catholic bookstore near you.
Catholic Answers Live is on EWTN television.
Hi, this is Cy Kellett. Join me for a show dedicated to Catholic apologetics and evangelization as we connect viewers to prominent leaders in the Church today and touch on just about everything relating to the Church. Doctrinal issues, family concerns, social issues, evangelization, ethics, you name it.
Catholic Answers Live, TV, Saturday at 5 p.m. Eastern on EWTN Television.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live, Great Big Friday show. I love it when we have fun guests on Fridays and we talk about subjects that of real import, but in a way that I hope you find pleasant, enjoyable, and that's how I find Gloria Purvis. Our topic this hour is Authentically Free at Last. She thought so much of the topic, she made a 13-episode DVD set about it for EWTN. And we're discussing exactly what is in there. What is it about the Catholic faith that actually sets people free? If we're Catholics and we believe things that Jesus said, like know the truth and the truth shall set you free, and that he came to set us free, then we have to ask ourselves why. In what way is the church offering us true human freedom? If you'd like to talk about that, 888-318-7884, 888-318-7884. And Gloria, one thing is in our modern world that you have talked about a great deal, and I want to ask you about, is that words are very slippery things, and we're using language to try to mean things that it doesn't mean. And certainly freedom is one of those words that has very slippery. But I'll leave it with you. What do you make of that?
So I feel like this is what I think. When we use words contrary to what they mean, we obscure the truth. I mean, the whole purpose of a word is to convey the truth about what it is that we're speaking about. And when we use words to mean exactly the opposite of what it's supposed to reveal to us, to me, we hamstring people from being able to make decisions about what is good and what is evil versus what is evil. Like this whole notion that they say stuff like, oh, you're a cis woman or a trans woman. And I'm like, no. There's only one kind of woman, and it's a biological female. The rest is just a man that maybe wants to dress as a woman or get surgery to appear as a woman, but he is not a woman. And then to demand that we use the pronouns that the people prefer rather than the pronouns that point out who they really are, what they are, it's silly. To me, then, we make the English language just chaotic. And then one cannot come to know the truth because you don't know what a word represents unless the person speaking it tells you. And then that's chaos. And then we no longer have language that can convey thoughts, ideas, and truth to another person because it's all subjective to what the speaker thinks the word is supposed to mean. And that's absurd. That's absolutely absurd. And yet, isn't that exactly where we are right now?
And that what strikes me is you cannot be free in a situation of chaos. So there has to be order. We don't want order in the like the Nazi kind of order, but legitimate order in order to be free. Like if I walk out and the world is just chaos, then I've got to hide. I've got to defend myself. I can't drive home. So this disorder in language is actually it's stirring up a kind of chaos that makes us less free, not more free.
It's anarchy.
Yeah, there you go. That's what I was looking for. Right.
It's anarchy in our language, and I'm like, and to me, it's how can we ever come to know the truth if we are basically going to purposely obscure what the truth is, what a word is supposed to mean, and then to demand that other people conform to this kind of anarchy. I mean, it's, that we have to, that it varies by person. You have to ask each person what their personal pronouns are, and then people make up words that don't even exist in the English language, like zer and z, or to use the plural to refer to a singular person. Oh yeah, I'm they and them. Call me that. It's saddening and enraging, and then also a bit comical because you're like, this is so silly. It's like the emperor has on no clothes, and we all see he's buck naked, but nobody wants to say it.
Yeah, but in that story, when you say it, then everybody kind of wakes up. In our society, they don't wake up. It's like, nope, he's wearing clothes. I'm pretty sure of it.
And they get angry with you and want to try to shout you down or to hurt you on your job or make threats. And I'm like, against your, for your personal safety. And it's like, really, this is what we've come to, and yet at the same time. Some of the very people that are putting forth these claims that are clearly objectively not correct regarding male and female will then say they believe in science and not God. And I'm like, but biology tells you that there's a difference between male and female. Biology tells you that human beings, we are a dimorphic species. We're, male and female.
Yeah.
But somehow that science is thrown out of the window for some other kind of social science about, studies. And so it makes you say, well, what is woman? What is woman? We are more than just an outfit, clothing, makeup. That's a costume. A woman is something else.
What a wonderful point, Gloria. Yes.
We're not a costume. What they're talking about is a costume. And you cannot take, and I cannot remember where I read this. I just loved it. You cannot take the substance of a woman to become a woman of substance. I just loved that. You cannot take the substance of a woman to become a woman of substance. And I think that is such a great thing for us to think about in this whole notion of transgenderism. And I'd also say, as a Catholic, as a believer, I think it's a mockery of God's creative power. Only God can speak or think, if you will, something into existence. And we'd like to believe, at least in my opinion, through transgender ideology, that people by their interior thoughts can change the physical world. No. That's only God can do that. We can't, by our thoughts, change from male to female. So, again, I think it's a mockery, another mockery of God's creative power.
Yes, right. But the great promise of the sexual revolution is that this sexual revolution, or as you call it, sexual rebellion, will set us free. We have now decades and decades of evidence that has not happened, that we are not more free, that we are more deeply wounded, and each generation that has to live through this sexual rebellion is more deeply wounded. It strikes me that you have a particular kind of focus, maybe because of who you are. It strikes me that one of the things I hear as almost the subtext of almost everything you say when I listen to you is that there's a kind of bullying of women in this quote unquote free society, that women are being bullied out of their own desires. They're being bullied out of their own fertility. Am I picking up the right?
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, bullying, that's a good word. This idea that we're even being, I would also say maybe brainwashed into thinking the very things about us that are natural to us. We're being brainwashed into thinking that these things that are particular to just women somehow are the chief obstacles to our achievement. So in other words, if you want to achieve in the world of, science or business and this and that and the other, you cannot, or law, you cannot, have a child. You cannot. Even marriage is sort of looked down upon in your 20s. Oh, why would you do that? Why would you tie yourself down to one person? And the notion also that we should be able to be promiscuous. I have this little saying, the world tells you to treat your body like a merry-go-round. And I'm here to tell you there's a lot of go round, but very little merry, right? But they would have women thinking that, treat your body like that. Let everybody hop on and hop off. And, you're going to, you're somehow free. And then when we feel bad about it, or we're like, why didn't he call us? Somehow it's like, well, you're betraying your gender by having these emotions and attachments to this guy. He doesn't feel anything, neither should you. Yeah. And I'm saying it wants us to deny the things about us that are female. And there's nothing wrong with it. In fact, part of sex is bonding. It's babies and bonding.
Right.
And so it's no surprise that when we toss aside the baby part, using contraception, artificial contraception, now they want to say, throw away the bonding part. I would say those are the things that make us human. That's how God made us. And the more you want us to turn away from that, the more deformed we actually become. And I can't remember who said this, the corruption of the best is the worst. And that's exactly what I think is happening. It's like they want to corrupt the best within us, and then we become the worst, because we've turned so far away from how we were made. And that's what women are asked to do. And it's no wonder, in my opinion, this is my opinion, that the rates of suicide among teenage girls, I often think of the sexting and the intense pressure to be how highly sexualized young women are. And then when they act on those things, the depression and the unhappiness that comes along with it can be too much to bear.
Nancy on Facebook, while you were speaking, typed in "truth it out," Gloria. Is that a thing? Is that a phrase? Truth it out?
Hey, if Nancy wants to use it, I'm all with you, sister. I'll try to truth it out right here.
Well, another thing you get into, in the DVD series "Authentically Free at Last," is this idea that we sell now the idea, I guess, that euthanasia, assisted suicide, this is also about freedom, and that is. You almost want to go, do you remember the 20th century? Like, does any of that ring a bell to you?
Right.
But you know what? I'm being told I need to go to a break, Gloria. We'll take the break, and then I want to talk about euthanasia and assisted suicide as quote-unquote freedoms after this with Gloria Purvis on Catholic Answers Live. We'll be right back.
Stay with us for more Catholic Answers Live.
It might be said that anti-Catholic notions of the Church's history are the original fake news. With all the misinformation being spread, where does one look for the truth? In The Real Story of Catholic History, Professor Steve Weidenkopf gives you the facts on over 50 of the most common misconceptions about Catholic history and shows how to answer them simply and powerfully. Whether it's to answer claims about Catholicism's supposedly pagan origins, old myths about the Inquisition that never seem to go away, or more modern errors that anti-Catholics put forth, The Real Story of Catholic History is an essential resource for every Catholic's bookshelf. Order your copy of The Real Story of Catholic History today by calling 1-888-291-8000, visiting the shop at Catholic.com, or asking for it at a good Catholic bookstore near you.
God helps those who help themselves. Preach the gospel always. When necessary, use words. We all hear sayings like these, and we assume they come from the Bible, the saints, or famous Christian writers. Nobody can seem to place their origin, but by sheer repetition, they've acquired a halo of truth. In my new book, What the Saints Never Said, I look at over 40 of these well-known sayings and track them back to their original sources. You'll be surprised at what I found. Some are close to what was really said. Many were misattributed or twisted beyond their original meaning, and more than a few of these sayings were simply made up. I hope by setting the record straight, I can make you aware of the theological errors that can lead us away from the faith and offer you authentic quotes from Scripture, saints, and scholars that will draw you closer to our faith. Get your copy of What the Saints Never Said by calling 1-888-291-8000, by visiting the shop at Catholic.com, or by asking for it at a good Catholic bookstore near you.
Call now with your question, 888-318-7884. This is Catholic Answers Live.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. Thanks for joining us. I want to remind you that everything except for bulk items, the big, if you order for bookstores and stuff, but everything is on sale right now, spring sale at shop.catholic.com. All books, all DVDs, all MP3s, all videos, CDs. I'm trying to think if we have any other things, stone tablets, whatever other media we're using. It's all on sale, 15% off right now. And I actually don't have on my sheet when that sale ends, so you better do it exactly right now. Just go to shop.catholic.com. I'm pretty sure it goes throughout the spring. It must end with spring because it's the spring sale. All right, shop.catholic.com, everything 15% off. Right now we're talking with Gloria Purvis from Morning Glory with Brian Patrick, and I'm sorry, you have to help me, the third person.
Elisa Murphy's our producer, and then we have a different priest every day of the week. So.
Oh, that's why. Okay,
that's
all right.
why you're like, huh?
Yeah.
That's okay.
Right. I'm sorry you have to work with an amateur like Brian Patrick. You couldn't get yourself anybody that knows broadcasting?
I'm just suffering there with this dude who doesn't know anything. I'm like, it's the on button, Brian. The
yeah.
on button. No.
Brian, hit the button. Nobody can hear you, Brian.
Right. Yeah.
With those of you who don't know Brian Patrick, he's been doing this for about 40 years. He's one of the great voices in Catholic media and just a great guy, too.
Mm-hmm.
But really, your vocation, Gloria, is Friday afternoons with us. That's where it's become obvious to me that.
Is it not? I mean, we can just chill and hang out, and I can say and do. We
That's
can just keep it real, as they say. Do we even say that anymore? We can just keep it real right here. And I'm like, it's not early morning, and I'm not worried about people crashing because that's something I've said on the radio. I'm like, y'all should be awake by now.
Yeah,
it's Friday afternoon, Friday evening. So I can just say whatever and it's all good. I sometimes give a little warning on my show. I'm like, okay, everybody, clutch your pearls. I'm about to say something
your
here.
pearls.
I have to tell them to clutch
That's
your
a fancy
pearls.
audience you have. 7 a.m. already wearing the pearls. I'm very impressed.
Right, imagine that. I was like, yeah.
Gloria is also one of the makers and hosts of Authentically Free at Last, a magnificent DVD series that you can get over at the EWTN store. The only problem there is I don't think their stuff is 15% off. I'm not saying don't get it. I'm just saying I don't think it's 15%
Not
off.
yet on sale, right?
Okay, so before we went to the break, I did want to ask you about this idea that is in California. It's frighteningly prevalent. I don't know how it is there, but this idea that suicide and euthanasia are freedoms, that that you're denying people their freedoms if you deny the public access to suicide and euthanasia.
Well, see, here in D.C., they just in the most recently passed physician-assisted suicide. The funny thing is there's no physician has signed up for it, but they were, hammering it in that we have to have physician-assisted suicide here in D.C., and it was all around this notion of the dying person, the sick person needs the freedom to be able to end their life on their terms. And it sounds so seductive, and it all was couched in the idea of this idea of control, that you want to have control about your suffering. And every time I heard all these things, what I kept hearing is fear. It's this fear of suffering. And I'm like, we have a way to deal with suffering. We have a way to properly deal with suffering. And as Christians, we know that we don't abandon people. And that particular episode is called A Person is a Person No Matter How Old or Ill. And the reason I wanted to have that title is because I'm like, it was a play on that Dr. Seuss, a person is a person no matter how small, which is another episode. But this one is a person no matter how old or ill, because we have to remember when a person is old or suffering or ill, they're still a person, and they have an inherent dignity and respect because they are made in the image and likeness of God. And I also think it's God inviting us to be less selfish, to be less turned in on ourselves, but to love outwardly, to love the other, which I think to me helps with the greatest growth. It's how we are in marriage. It's not just about me. It's going to be about your spouse. It's also going to be about when you're a parent. It's going to be about your child. It's not always about what you want to do. It's this idea of loving self-sacrifice for the good of the other, and we're especially called to do that in the case of the ill and the elderly. Now, the notion that, I want to not be a burden, or I don't want to suffer. We need to help people understand that they will not be suffering alone, that it's not a burden for us to allow us to care for them. And it's also not authentic health care to end your life. One of our greatest natural impulses is to live, right?
Yeah. Right.
It's to live. And it would be contrary to, what God planned for us to artificially end it before he has decided to, you know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
All of us have an end in God's mind, this earthly life, right? So who are we? I think to me it's the ultimate defiance again and rebellion to say, no, God, I'm saying on this date at this time, I'm going to end my life on my terms. And to me, there's also a lack of trust there in the Lord. It's a whole lot of mixed up stuff with euthanasia, and especially how they peddle it to the general public. A lot of abuses with it too.
Right, and so much of that, doesn't it, that the idea that, it's for freedom for the person.
Oh, yeah.
What it really means is freedom for me to not have to make any sacrifices for those who are suffering. It's freedom for me that I don't have to be burdened with these.
Yeah. Oh, yes. And when in D.C., when they were having the city council talk about it, one of the city council members on the dais started talking about how his father was sick and his father had cancer. And he talked about how he suffered looking at his father die like that. And he says, and nobody should have to suffer like that. And I was like, there you go. That's the whole thing. It's really about us not being burdened. We don't want to be bothered.
Yeah.
We don't. And I said that was probably the most true testimony up there. He revealed, probably with not even realizing, that it was all about his comfort. Not so much about how could I help my dad at the end of his life,
Right.
but I shouldn't have had to suffer like that. I mean, he said, I couldn't believe it. And then he started crying. And then I felt myself, I just wanted to shake him. And I was like, you're so selfish. how could you abandon your father or want to have abandoned your father in his dying days when he needed you the most? And I was thankful that at that time he couldn't have killed his dad. He didn't have physician-assisted suicide available in D.C. And a lot of times people do get abused. I mean, they're not protections for the person who is oftentimes not able to speak for themselves. And you have a lot of complicating factors. Maybe there's inheritance involved. Maybe, you just don't know what other factors may be motivating a person's decision to pursue euthanasia for someone who's sick.
Yeah, indeed. And when these societies we see that are embracing euthanasia, they're not saying, well, maybe we all need to, sacrifice more for the disabled, or we need to have better facilities for the mentally ill. They're saying, well, come on, let's all just get rid of them. And I guess that's freedom for them. Dan in New Orleans, is that a call, or no, Dan's on the line or not? Oh, okay. So Dan did call. He said he had no question. He just wanted to say we need to have Gloria on more. Why am I? I don't want to read that on the air. No.
Dan, thank you. Dan, thank you. Sai, you have to have me back again sometime. Then that's just Dan's decreed it. And
that's
there
right,
it is.
Dan in New Orleans. You shall get what you have decreed.
There you go.
All right, let's go to Tony in Bronx, New York. Tony, you are on with Gloria Purvis.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. I appreciate it. Nice to talk to you, Gloria.
Hey, thank you for calling in, Tony.
You actually sound very familiar. I believe you were on the Catholic channel with Lena Rulli. Did you have your own show there?
No, I didn't. No, I
Sounds
didn't
familiar.
actually. Oh, thanks.
Well,
I'm sorry.
you might hear her mornings on EWTN because every morning she's on Morning Glory.
Oh, okay. That's right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to change the subject. But here's my question, because I know you guys were talking about, like free will, free spirit, and all that. Now, if you're in a situation where, two parents, have either a son or a daughter, and their choice is to live with someone before they get married, and they plan to get married in the Catholic Church, everybody's raised Catholic and all that stuff. How does the parent supposed to react to that? You know what I mean? And especially if the husband and the wife are split up. One says it's okay, and the other one says it's not because of my Catholic beliefs and, how I was raised and things like that. How do you tackle something like that?
Is the child coming to the parent and asking their blessing, or are they just telling the parent, hey, I'm going to move in with this person I'm about to marry?
Yeah, good question. It probably would tend to go more towards their blessing, so to speak.
Oh, please. You know at that point so everybody has free will, right? And so the child can choose to do good or evil, but that doesn't mean that you're going to say, yep, I bless that just because you choose it. Of course, you as a parent, you were probably trying to raise them in the faith all along, and you would tell them, no, there's no way I could support that. I know you're going to marry them. Why can't you just wait? But, ultimately it's going to be that particular adult's choice. But under no circumstances would you ever, in my opinion, especially because you love your child and you want them to get to heaven, never, ever would you give them cover to do what you know is wrong. And you would say, if you're going to get married and live as husband and wife once you're married. But you wouldn't want to allow them to facilitate it by giving your blessing up and say, yeah, well, that's okay. You're about to get married, so you can go ahead and act as if you're husband and wife before you're actually married. You would never do that. And it might be uncomfortable. And of course, if let's say the dad says that, but the mom was like, no, you go ahead and live as you want, that's a conflict. But the dad can be clear in his conscience that he modeled for them and spoke to them the truth, and he's not aiding and abetting them doing the wrong thing. And hopefully, having that voice of reason from that one parent who is not in agreement with the other parents, it's like, yeah, go ahead and do what you want. Well, at least maybe prick their conscience a little bit, but ultimately the adult child, is going to do as they wish. But we as parents must not in any circumstance bless and abet, things that we know that are bad for our kids.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And society tells us, one thing, and, of course we know about the good Lord's teaching and everything. We have to abide by that. and that's where the push and pull comes into play.
But you also love your child, which is why you want to tell them the right thing. You know, everybody thinks we have to affirm everything that our children want. Well, guess what? My daughter doesn't want to eat her vegetables sometimes. Well, I'm not going to say, "Yep, darling, you know, I'm going to affirm that." I'm like, "You want that fruit bar after dinner? You need to eat your vegetables." You know what I mean? We couldn't, otherwise they'd just be eating junk all the time, and we wouldn't say, "Oh yeah, that's great. You don't need any food that has real nutrition in it because you like something else." People would say, "What kind of parent are you? How is this child going to grow and form appropriately if they aren't given proper nutrition?" Same here too. How is the child going to grow if we're always affirming what's not good for them? And I know it's sometimes uncomfortable, or we're seen as not the cool parent, not the fun parent, or even not the loving parent, but it is loving them to try to tell them, "Honey, I don't think that's going to be good for you." And we talk about it, why, from a faith perspective, but also because you love them. That's your real impetus for saying what you say to your kids, is because you love them.
Tony, I have to leave it there because the music is playing, which means we got to go. Thank you very much for that call, Tony. Gloria Purvis, thank you for another exciting hour.
Oh, Cy, thank you so much. I enjoyed it very much. Best Friday ever.
Oh, I'm so glad. Well, that's good. We got you now. We got you hooked.
There you go, yeah.
If you want to find Gloria on Twitter, where she's very active, you just go to @Gloria_Purvis, and it's Purvis, and you will find her. Again, thanks very much, Gloria Purvis.
Thank you, Cy. It was my pleasure, truly my pleasure.
On Monday, Dr. Carrie Gress will be here. We're going to talk about evangelizing and how to do it joyfully. Jesus Christ is the light of the nations, and we'll see you next time on Catholic Answers Live.